I was just watching Richard's stream because I'm a fan of his. I have been for a long time. And recently he's been talking more and more politically. I assume this is because his fans are, and it's around election time in America. In fact, he keeps getting asked, what are you going to vote, or something along the lines, and he has to keep telling them, I am Canadian, I can't vote in an American election. It's funny because he knows a lot about guns. He's a very smart individual, yet when it comes to politics, he seems to not care about the Second Amendment. Or at least that's what I thought until...
What's your opinion on the First and Second Amendment? Curious.
Well, First Amendment's fucking obvious. Second Amendment, I don't know why you would want a country in which self-defense was illegal. The only way to adequately defend yourself is with a firearm. The only way to ban firearms is to ban their knowledge of how they're created, which is impossible, so criminals will always have access. So again, the only way to adequately defend yourself is with a firearm. I know dumbasses like Sam Cedar argue against the Second Amendment and say it was specifically made during a time period where they're afraid of invading armies, like the British. So they wanted to have militias that would be ready and armed in case that happened. So the argument from left-wing libtards is you shouldn't be allowed to own a firearm personally, but you should be allowed to join a militia where there's like a lockup for the firearms. That is not what was intended by the Second Amendment. This was early America where everybody had a gun. There's also a huge amount of people who lived outside of cities with no access to a police department. This is also before phones existed. So the idea that the Founding Fathers would think it would be wrong for civilians to own firearms is just absolutely fucking retarded. They clearly had an interest in personal self-defense, and they also had an interest in an armed populace that had militias so that they could fight forces both foreign and domestic. So Second Amendment is absolutely crucial to maintaining a stable democracy. It's also crucial for just personal self-defense and warding off crime. So I'm in full support of the Second Amendment. Thanks for the donation though, Chris.
So it turns out Richard's actually very based, which I should have known because he is in many other ways. But it's just funny to me, he says that, but then goes on to say stuff like Trump is a moron and we should vote for Kamala. You're a moron if you don't vote for Kamala. He lives in a more extreme democracy, being in Canada, and their current prime minister taking away a lot of his rights that he should have as a human being when it comes to guns. He even talks about it here.
What are your gun rights like where you live? Are you even able to have guns in Canada? Also, are you interested in that?
They're pretty gay. So you are not allowed to carry a firearm with you on your person, which is fucking stupid because criminals do it all the time. So they've literally created a law where law-abiding citizens can't protect themselves, but criminals can just walk up and shoot you. Under the Trudeau government, they've put a freeze on handgun sales, so you can't buy any handguns at the moment. There's also really stupid laws when it comes to self-defense. If somebody breaks into your home, you're not allowed to just shoot them. You have to use what they consider a proportionate response. So if somebody breaks into your home and they don't have a weapon on them, you're not really allowed to use a gun in most circumstances. Even using a weapon of any kind, like a baseball bat, is kind of an iffy scenario. You're supposed to, like, de-escalate and shit like that, which only makes the situation more dangerous for you, because now you're putting your life at risk. for the sake of the other person, and you have no idea what they plan to do. There is no guarantee that, you know, they're not hiding a gun or a knife on them. You also have to keep your guns locked in a safe at all times, which is also just fucking stupid because you can't really use a gun if it's locked up in a safe. So unless you're very close to your safe and somebody breaks in, you might be fucked. So they're kind of fucking stupid. Trudeau also banned assault weapons, which the Liberal government admitted they literally could not come up with a definition of assault weapon. So they flat out admitted they tried to ban something that doesn't exist. So what they resorted to doing was arbitrarily banning a long list of weapons, and they banned the AR-15 specifically, which was completely and utterly pointless because now there's new firearms on the Canadian market that are exactly the same as the AR-15. Same operating system, same caliber, same, it's a detachable box magazine, semi-automatic. The only difference is it's not compatible with AR-15 parts. That's the only stipulation. So they banned a gun when there is a direct replacement for it. Why did they do it? Because they're dickheads. No reason. They just did it. So yeah, the Liberal government is absolutely fucking cucked, and firearms laws here are pretty fucking stupid, but you can get them.
But then he goes on to say stuff like, you'd have to be an idiot to vote for Trump. You have to vote for Kamala. I don't know if he hasn't seen her policies or he just doesn't care about the Second Amendment as much as me. I'm not sure. But it's funny because he is currently suffering and he loves guns, yet he pushes for more tyranny. I don't get it.
I think for far too long on the issue of gun violence, some people have been pushing a really false choice to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. And I'm in favor of assault weapons bans.
If you are for banning any type of gun at all, no matter what kind it is, then you are not pro-Second Amendment. That is what the Second Amendment states. You shall not infringe on our rights, meaning zero infringement. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. This part right here is especially amazing because she's making 3 fallacies at once. Poisoning the well, a red herring, and a straw man argument all in one go. It really shows how manipulative and how much of a liar that she is. Because I know she's smart, because she was a lawyer. So she's not illiterate, she's very well read. First she starts with the red herring saying the issue of gun violence. Well, the Second Amendment is not gun violence. 2 totally different things. That's a red herring. That would be like me talking about cars and the right to drive a car, and then I say something like, oh, I don't know, we have to restrict cars because of all the drunk driving accidents that happen that kill people. Well, is that a car problem? Or is that a drinking problem? Is that a person problem? It's not the same thing. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The Second Amendment does not state you have the right to commit violence against another. For her to even say that is very deceptive. She knows exactly what she's doing. Then she says some people have been pushing a really false choice. Either that you are in favor of the Second Amendment, or that you are trying to take everybody's guns away. This is both a straw man and poisoning the well. 1, she is saying something that has never been said. 2, she is trying to make it seem as though the people who counter her are illogical, based on her pre-existing red herring, which in itself is not logical. So she's trying to make something logical out of something that is illogical. i.e. she is trying to say her lie is truthful with another lie. Nobody would have to suggest that, because that is the Second Amendment, is the right to bear arms and that it shall not be infringed. Nobody has to state that. That's the obvious, that if you try to take away someone's guns, you are against the Second Amendment. That's how it works. That is inherent of the Second Amendment. That is how the Second Amendment works. So then when she says the statement, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, I am also in favor of an assault weapons ban. That is a complete contradiction, makes no sense. But she is now 3 steps in deep manipulation. So in her messed up, twisted world, that makes sense. But for that to make sense, her 3 lies would have to be truths, which they're not. Just read the Second Amendment for yourself.
Kamala Harris says if she becomes president, she will take what her campaign calls executive action to combat gun violence.
Upon being elected, I will give the United States Congress 100 days to get their act together and have the courage to pass reasonable gun safety laws. And if they fail to do it, then I will take executive action. And specifically what I will do is put in place a requirement that for anyone who sells more than 5 guns a year, they are required to do background checks when they sell those guns. I will require that for any gun dealer that breaks the law, the ATF take their license. And by the way, we are finally going to pass universal background checks, red flag laws, and an assault weapons ban. So Tim is a hunter and a gun owner who believes, as the majority of gun owners do, that we need reasonable gun safety laws in America. So as governor, he expanded background checks and increased penalties for illegal firearm sales.
Do you believe in the mandatory buyback of quote-unquote assault weapons? And whether or not you do, how does that idea not go against fundamentally the Second Amendment?
Great question. I do believe that we need to do buyback. I'll tell you, when elected president, if the United States Congress continues to fail to have the courage to do something about this, I'm prepared to take executive action and put in place a ban on the importation of assault weapons into our country. But we still have to deal with the over 2 million assault weapons that are currently in the streets of America. And so a buyback program is a good idea.
And saying there's no constitutional authority to issue that executive order when they say I'm going to eliminate assault weapons, saying you can't do it by executive order any more than Trump can do things when he says he can do it by executive order. Does the vice president have a point there?
Some things you can, many things you can't.
Let's let the senator answer.
Well, I mean, I would just say, hey, Joe, instead of saying no, we can't, let's say yes, we can.
Let's be constitutional. We got a constitution.
And yes, we can. Universal background checks, red flag laws. And these are just common sense. These are just common sense.
Then there's this old chestnut. It's common sense to get all these people who don't actually look at anything to cheer and go along and clap. Common sense is not common anymore, because if it was, you would know this is a completely ridiculous statement. More deaths occur with handguns than rifles, but let's ban the rifle, because it's common sense. I could very easily put a Glock switch on a pistol, or an auto sear on any pistol for that matter, if I really wanted to. And I found the knowledge that's readily available everywhere, and make any handgun fully automatic. I can also go and purchase a slew of different magazines that hold well over 30 rounds for just about any pistol. They make handguns, they're called double stack, to hold at least 16 rounds. So the magazine's wider, allowing for more ammo, even on an older platform such as the 1911. But let's ignore all those facts and fearmonger, because it's common sense. The best part is that this amendment was made not for us to fight each other, which is what they're trying to spin. That's the narrative they're trying to spin, that we need to stop violence on the streets. It was to stop tyrannical government and invading forces. So if the government wanted to fight us, we're supposed to take up our arms against them. It has nothing to do with us fighting each other. A criminal is going to commit a crime regardless. You take away guns, they use knives, they use cars, they use bombs, etc., etc., etc. It's been proven over and over again. So I ask, if a pistol has more kills than a rifle, how is it common sense that we ban the rifle? This is just them trying to inch by inch take away all your rights, in which case you will have no defense against the government telling you exactly what to do. This is called communism, which leads to tyranny and communism. And that used to be common sense. At the end of the day, maybe the Second Amendment just isn't as important to Richard as it is me. This could be a multitude of different things, though he is more leaning left, even though I think he's centralist. But in the day, it probably is mostly just because he's Canadian and I am American. And before I get any comments, yes, I am a poor American. If you know anything about guns, you will know about that scope. However, on my pistol, Vortex, I make sure I spend where I need to.
Well, in California we have a gun roster where only a certain list of guns are allowed to be sold in California and the rest of the country can have it. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's because you keep electing complete and utter moron, libtard fuckwits who know nothing about fucking guns and just want to virtue signal about bullshit, and they're just afraid of loud noises. California is absolutely stupid when it comes to guns. I don't even know how it's constitutional. Like, somebody should challenge it in the Supreme Court. There's no way it's constitutional. Thanks for the donation, Chris.